Hello and good evening, and welcome to a very special guest edition of The Shed, hashtag Irish Blues Mafia. And I'm delighted to be joined by Michaela Fagan. Michaela was on the show last year, and she's a huge Philadelphia Eagles fan. And we're going to have just a little chat about the draft and what she hopes for the Philadelphia Eagles and a few other little bits and pieces, and what her thoughts and hopes are for the season for her team. So you're very welcome, Michaela, to the show. I'm delighted to have you back on again.
Thanks for having me back, Trev. And I'm really excited to talk about the draft because honestly, other than the actual season, I think the draft is probably the most exciting aspect of the NFL. And it's actually what got me into the NFL. So I love talking about it and I love making my list of who's going to get picked and all that stuff.
Yeah, there's some big decisions to be made by teams this year with certain areas, and there seems to be a very deep pick, say, on quarterbacks and wide receivers, and in the offensive zones anyway. There seems to be an awful lot to choose from. If you miss one guy, you have plenty more to look at. How For yourselves in the Eagles, ye are pick number 22 in the first round. I know picking players, we'll talk about them later on in certain players, but for yourself as an Eagles fan, what is the area you would hope for if they, provided they don't move from pick 22, they would choose?
I think the Eagles definitely need to focus on defense. They let Hassan Reddick walk this year, which I don't think they should have. I really like Hassan and that defense line back position. And if you looked at their needs kind of more to begin the free agency, I have it here. They needed a running back. They probably got one of the best running backs. Josh Jacobs and Saquon Barkley were definitely the best available. I'm really excited about Saquon. I think he'll flourish. I hope what happens with him is I hope he does what Christian McCaffrey does. Christian McCaffrey was with the Panthers. We all knew he was good, but he was a bit injury prone, and then he got traded to the San Francisco 49ers and he just flourished. So I think that's what Saquon should be aiming for. He should be aiming to stay healthy. Maybe the training staff could be better at Philadelphia, help him stay fit. So they got running back tied up. Wide receiver, they have Devontae Smith, they have AJ Brown, they've signed Devontae to a 3-year deal. That's not really an area they should look at maybe in the later rounds, maybe the second or third round. So I definitely think they need to go on the defensive side and probably take the best defensive player available because they're number 22. They're further down the draft. So I honestly think maybe look at the secondary a little bit. I'm never really impressed with their secondary, even though they got Darius Slay. I love Darius. Maybe bring in safety help. Well, I do know I think they got CJ Gardner-Johnson back from the Detroit Lions, if I remember correctly. Yeah, they did. So that's already a big move. But whatever it is, they're going to have to go with defense at the 22nd pick.
Yeah, I was just, as I was saying, looking at PFT mock draft in my previous video, but they have for the 22nd pick for the Eagles, Cooper DeJean, cornerback. Would you be happy with that?
I would be happy with that because not only is he a cornerback, but a lot of people are saying he can fit in at safety. So, that's a player that's, rated highly enough that, they're saying, okay, well, he can play at cornerback or he can play at safety. Now, I think from what I've been hearing that the teams would be more interested in playing them at safety. So if he was willing to be safety, he's probably the top safety in the draft. Then if he's willing to go to that position, out of cornerbacks, I think he's maybe the fourth best cornerback, maybe fourth or fifth best cornerback in that draft. So I would be very, very happy because you have a guy that seemingly can play two positions in probably their most needed area on the field. So I think if he falls to them and he's the best defensive player available, then the Eagles it would be a great pick for the Eagles.
Yeah, I know from listening to podcasts here on the Bills side, There's a guy, Joe Marino. He does an excellent. He does every day Locked On Bills, but he does also work for the draft. But he was saying that if he could drop down to 28, even if there was a wide receiver and the Bills are in bad need of getting wide receivers, he would pick Cooper DeJean before he pick a wide receiver. If he, now he said he won't fall down to that, but if he did, that's how highly rated he thinks of him. That he would pick him before a wide receiver. So if the Eagles get him, he should be a huge addition to your team.
100%. And if he fell down, you see the thing with Buffalo is like just that the wide receiver class is very deep this year as well. There's going to be good wide receivers at that point. So I do think the Bills, if there's obviously the first top three guys are going to be gone. But like I said, it's a very, very deep class for wide receivers, and I think the Bills, they have to keep Josh Allen happy, and I know Cooper DeJean be a great pick there, but I do think the Bills are going to be, especially if the top, well, not the top, kind of the after the top three wide receivers, if any of them are still available, I do think the Bills are just going to pick them because they have to keep Josh Allen happy. They have to get him some help. I can't really think of any help he has really at the moment. They traded Stephon Diggs. Honestly, I think that was the best move probably for the Bills because Diggs, he seems to be causing a little drama. Yourself, you're a Bills fan. He caused a little bit of drama last year. I think he brings, he's an unbelievable player, but he brings in a bit of a negative energy when they don't play as well as they should, or they're not winning games, kind of like Aaron Rodgers in that sense, throws the rattle out of the cradle. So I do think they were best for Stephon and the Bills for moving on. And I think, I do think the Bills are going to draft a wide receiver, and hopefully they bring in somebody else for Josh Allen. But let's hopefully they draft a good one who, can fill Stephon's big shoes.
Yeah, well, I'll be honest, I'm happy that Stefan is gone. I wish him well. But I do think, as you said, there was a lot. When things were going well, it was great. But when things weren't, there was drama. And I've looked at a few and listened to about a few different wide receivers, and there's Xavier Leggett, there's Adonai Mitchell, there's Xavier Worthy. There are three wide receivers that will be in or around that area when it comes to pick 28 for the Bills if they decide to go for it. But I also did read a story, but I don't know how true it is. And I said it on my previous video, it's only a fairy tale, but it might be true, that there is a story that Justin Jefferson could be traded from the Minnesota Vikings. And there's also a little bit into it that maybe the Bills could be looking at that. Now, again, that could be just someone putting up a piece of information that's not true. But if it was true, if I were the Bills, I'd be looking at a guy that's proven, and you have a quarterback that can hit him. But I would also look at what's his off the field demeanor before you go getting him.
Yeah, exactly. And it'd be funny because it'd be exactly what the Bills did with Stephon Diggs. Stephon wanted to leave the Vikings. The Bills got him. So Justin Jefferson, again, it'd be the Vikings going to the Bills. But yeah, I definitely think that thing is, really important. Like, what's their off the field demeanor? I think some wide receivers can be, they can bring a lot of drama to a team. The same thing kind of happened with Odell Beckham Jr. at the Browns. He made a big fuss about Baker Mayfield. And, he left, he went to the Rams. He knew the Rams were going to win the Super Bowl, so he got his ring. But, now he's hopping around the league, seems to be a 1-year deal type of player. Baker's got his contract, a 3-year contract at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. There's a lot of wide receivers that can be drama queens, and they think they're the stars and stuff like that. But yeah, I think you're right. I think if they do trade for Justin Jefferson, they'd want to hope that he's not like a Stephon Diggs, that he doesn't get frustrated, that he believes in the system, that he believes in the team, that he wants to win a Super Bowl with that team. and not just to win a Super Bowl. So it's in his trophy case, it's about the team. I know that's like your goal is to win a Super Bowl, but it's like you also want to bring a bit of glory to the team, not just yourself. So I think that'll be important if they trade for Justin Jefferson. But if they do, it would be, they probably should try. They should give up their first round pick because there's not gonna be anyone of his talent at that pick that late in the draft, and Josh Allen deserves someone of his stature, his talent. He just lost Stephon Diggs. They need to bring in somebody for him. So I think that'd be a great trade if the Bills went for it. And I'd be excited because the Vikings aren't going to have a really good quarterback this year. They're going to have a rookie probably. So I think Justin Jefferson wouldn't be opposed to it either.
No, like that's my thought, is that if there is smoke and there's fire to come from it about this trade, maybe he's looking at it going, no matter which the rookie quarterbacks they get, they're not going to get Caleb Williams, but of the other five, um, will they bring success straight away? And the answer is probably no. It'll take a year or two for them to get going and get their scheme in and their tactics and everything correct.
So obviously, it was different with CJ Stroud going number 2 overall. He brought a lot of success to Houston. They made it to the playoffs. But then all you have to do is look at Bryce Young, who didn't do as well as everyone thought he was going to do. But then also, the quarterback that the Vikings are realistically going to get are JJ McCarthy. Now, I know people are kind of split on him, saying, he's overrated. But then again, like, he's the quarterback that brought Michigan a national championship in how many years? Like, they've had Tom Brady. Now, I know Tom Brady was kind of in and out between, Michigan. There was another guy there as well who was kind of competing against. But since all those years, they would have had good or decent quarterbacks, and he's the one that gets them the national championship. I know his stats aren't crazy, but, I would, if I needed a quarterback, and he's definitely, maybe a top, I don't know what he is. I think he's rated like maybe in the 20s of everyone in the draft. But if you had maybe you're in the top, we know he's probably going to go from 6 onwards with the Giants. The Giants could take him maybe, or, the Vikings may move up. But, if he's the next best quarterback and that's what you need, just go for it. Zach, it's happened before. Zach Wilson's been taking a second. He wasn't that good. He's been traded to the Broncos, and now the Jets have Aaron Rodgers. So it works out, even if it doesn't really work out with that player. You obviously want them to work out. But, the Vikings they lost Danielle Hunter as well. They need an edge. But I think they need a quarterback. They should trade up for one. Or if they don't think they're going to get one they don't like JJ McCarthy, maybe even drop down a little bit and maybe take Bo Nix from Oregon. He's a good talent as well. So I think, I don't know. I think the Vikings definitely will trade up because that just seems what everyone's saying.
Yeah, well, like I was looking at it, and what I think of JJ McCarthy is he's not as athletic or he's not as flash as Caleb Williams, but I rate him high because he has A, the championship trophy, and B, he's played 28 games in college football and he's won 27. And no matter how good your team is around that, you're still part of that team. And he is one of the most important cogs of that team. And only to lose one game in 2 years, like, he's not there by fluke. There has to be. Now, I know they'll be looking at different things and the whole lot, like arm strength and stuff like that, and how quick you are and can you maneuver and all that. Maybe he isn't at the top of that, but he does know how to win, and that's a very important thing too for any player going into a team. Is, yeah, if you're going into a team that wants to win, like most are, you have to know how to win.
It is the most important thing because look at Brady. Brady wasn't rated highly at all. He was the 199th pick, but he was a winner. He knew how to win. So, I don't understand that. Like, obviously, I can understand from a statistical point of view, or like arm strength and build, touchdown to interception ratio and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, you want someone who can win and who can win regardless of all the kind of maybe lower stats he has from college over the rest of his draft class. If I look at Drake May, the North Carolina quarterback, and I'm like, yeah, well, look at the last big name quarterback who was taken from that college. It was Mitch Trubisky, and he didn't turn out so well. There's Caleb Williams. He's obviously, everyone kind of is like, oh, he's definitely the number one and stuff like that. And of course, you can't skip on a guy like that. But, if you're coming and asking me, like, look, there's two quarterbacks, Jaden Daniels and Drake May, and they're above statistically JJ McCarthy, and, they better arm strength or whatever. But you say JJ McCarthy's won a championship, and I'm kind of going to go like, well, I want to look at JJ because he's a winner. Do you know what I mean? He overcame all those things, whether it be the arm strength or anything like that, and he was still able to win a championship for Michigan, which they've been trying to do for years. So, I wouldn't rule him out, and I definitely think he's going to go in the top 10.
Yeah, like I would be thinking the same. Like on PFT mock draft, they had him at number 11, but what they did was they put the Vikings swapped with the Patriots, so the Vikings went up to number 3 to take Drake May, and then the Patriots took JJ McCarthy, and then the Patriots also got the Vikings have a pick at number 23, so they got that pick as well from them. But if you are the Patriots and you need a quarterback, why? Now this is only hypothetical, but why would you drop down to 11 when you need a quarterback as your first pick? And if you're the Vikings, um, like I understand them going up to get a quarterback, but if JJ McCarthy is hanging there at number 11 when it comes to you, then he's the guy, as we just said there, that knows how to win. The other guys might be flashier, they might be faster, different things or whatever. But when it comes to winning the trophy, getting your team over the line, getting through hard parts during the season and still coming out with a win, he can do it.
Yeah, that's actually, the Patriots, that's an interesting trade circumstance. But you see, when I did my initial kind of mock draft for this, I had the Vikings picking JJ at number 11, but then his pro day came out. He did really, really well. I think his stock went up a little bit with that, to the point where I think people are saying now, look, if anyone wants a quarterback, they're going to have to trade up to 4 or 5. They have to swap with either the Cardinals or the Chargers because they both have their franchise quarterbacks, because nobody really trusts the Giants not to take a quarterback at 6. When I was doing my mock draft, I said they're definitely 100% going wide receiver. If they want to stick with Daniel Jones, I know they've given him a contract, but are they really going to sit there at 6 and be like, are we really going to, pass up on potentially a better quarterback than Daniel Jones? It really depends on if they rate the wide receivers higher than JJ McCarthy, because realistically, that's who they're getting at 6. The other 3 will be gone. So I think if the Giants, I wouldn't put it past them to draft a quarterback, because we all know Daniel Jones is probably not the answer at this point. But do they value JJ McCarthy or see him as better or equal to the top wide receivers? And at that point, it might be Malik Neighbors, it might be Rome Odunze, whoever you pronounce his name. One of them will be there, and it's really tough because people are talking about the Vikings jumping up to 4, and they realistically only have to jump up to 4 to leapfrog the Giants, because the Giants are going to be the team who are going to take a quarterback after the top 3. So it's a really, really interesting draft. But it wouldn't. If Bill Belichick was still the coach of the New England Patriots and you had told me, yeah, they might move down to 11 to take JJ McCarthy instead of Drake May or Jaden Daniels, I'd be like, that doesn't surprise me because he's a winner. And, Bill Belichick could probably do a lot with that. But yeah, there's definitely going to be a big trade. It doesn't seem like it's going to happen before then, but it's definitely going to happen on the night, whether it be the Chargers or the Cardinals. I think it's more likely to be the Cardinals, because I don't think the Chargers are going to move from 5 and miss out on the top 3 wide receivers.
Yeah, I was looking at that. Like, according to the mock draft again from PFT, that the Cardinals were going to take Marvin Harrison Jr. and then the Chargers would take Malik Neighbors. Um, like, if the Cardinals moved out of 4, that would open up Marvin Harrison Jr. then to the Chargers. It'd be a big loss for the Cardinals when they're looking for a wide receiver to, like, to give Kyler Murray something to build their team on. And
It's a really big year for Kyler Murray. You know, he's kind of fallen off as he's progressed in the league. I've personally never rated him. You know, I've never been a big fan of him. I don't think he's an elite quarterback. I think he robbed his offensive rookie of the year award. I think he should have went to Josh Jacobs that year because he was just unbelievable at running back. So I don't think Kyler Murray is amazing. But yeah, if the Cardinals really, really want to build that team around them, I really think they should stick at 4. I know it's tempting to move and maybe they'd probably get 2 first-round picks from Minnesota, realistically, if they were to trade up. But you know, you're passing on a top wide receiver, and we saw how a wide receiver can help a team drastically. Because look at the Bengals, you know, they probably should have in that draft, they drafted Jamar Chase. I thought they were going to go offensive tackle, and they didn't. They went with Chase, and I was like, I don't think that's a good pick. And it obviously was, because they made it to the Super Bowl that year, and Chase is one of the best in the league. So I think the Cardinals want to try and mimic that, and they have to take a wide receiver here. You know, if they go to 11, you know, they could, if he's still there, they could take Bowers, the tight end. Unless they don't need a tight end, I'm not too sure who their tight end is at the moment, actually. But you know, they'd be missing out on the top 3, and I think those guys are kind of like surefire things when it comes to the league. So I don't think they should move out of the 4th spot.
yeah, listening to podcasts, they reckon like the Neighbors, Harrison, and Odunze or Doozy or whatever. I apologize for not being able to say his name right. But anyway, them 3 guys are sort of the top 3 wide receivers. There's a step down then to the rest, but then the rest are very close together. You can go down to the 2nd or 3rd round with wide receivers, and you will get a very good wide receiver. But just these 3 guys are the outstanding. And how Marvin Harrison Jr. apparently, for pound to pound, is the best player in the draft, even ahead of Caleb Williams. So if you're the Cardinals and you know the other 3 are going quarterback, and you've got the best player on paper in the draft sitting there at number 4, it's very hard to say to anybody, I'm going to take a swap with you and give him up.
Yeah, unless they see more holes in their team, more at wide receiver, and they want to go at 11. But like you said, there's the top 3, and then there's a step down, and then, you know, they would be taking a big reach at 11 if they took one of the wide receivers after the top 3. So I don't think it's worth stepping down. You know, probably taking Minnesota's 23rd pick, I think, that they got off the Houston Texans, and their 11th pick. The draft is obviously very deep, so they'd get good players at both of those positions, but they need a wide receiver. They want to prove that Kyler Murray, they want to keep him happy. You know, they want to prove that he's their franchise quarterback. They should just take the like you said, the best player in the draft for him, and it could improve things drastically for them. We saw how CJ Stroud improved drastically for the Texans. We saw Jamar Chase do it for the Bengals. You know, just take the player and see what happens. You know, if you don't improve drastically, you still have probably going to be one of the best wide receivers in the league if he does well, and then you can build around him as well. So I think they should just stick at 4. Wouldn't surprise me if they traded out of it, because it seems like everyone thinks they're going to trade out of it to the Vikings so the Vikings can move up and take the quarterback, presumably before the Giants. I don't think you could budge the Chargers at all. It's funny because they both have their franchise quarterbacks. They both desperately need wide receivers. But if you were to ask me, Justin Herbert is immensely more talented than Murray. He's, one of the best quarterbacks in the league when he's healthy. I think they are not budging from 5. I'd be very, very surprised if they moved from 5, because I know they are going to take a receiver at 5, whether it be Malik Neighbors or if Marvin Harrison falls to them, but they're not budging from 5.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I don't think they're going to move. I was also saying earlier in the other video tonight, I do think the Giants, no more than yourself, could take a quarterback because they're sitting there at 6. Then just on another note, we know the Vikings are looking, but then you had 10 you have the Jets, 12 you had the Broncos, and 13 you had the Raiders. And for me, I think the Jets need a quarterback because you have Aaron Rodgers, you've lost Zach Wilson. Aaron Rodgers could play the season out, fit, no bother, but Aaron Rodgers could be gone in a game like he was last year, and you don't know how he's going to recover from um, the Achilles injury or how his body will last when the tackles start coming in. The Broncos, I know they've now got Zach Wilson. That they might it might be reset, refresh. It could be good. I hope it is good for them. But they still might be in the lookout for a quarterback. And then you have the Raiders. Now, I know Gardner Minshew's gone to the Raiders and Aidan O'Connell is there, but I think they need a quarterback as well. That's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, they both of them teams definitely. You see, I think they're going to be happy to stick with Aaron Rodgers for another. I say he thinks he's going to be able to play another 2 years at least. I think he's going to try and do what Brady did and play very well into his. Oh, he probably thinks 40. I think he thinks he's going to play until he's at least that age. He's going to try and do what Brady did in that sense. You know, I do agree that the Jets need a quarterback. I don't think they'll do it this year because it'll be a bit unfair. Rodgers coming back from injury, he never really got to show anyone what he could do with the Jets last season. I think they'll definitely stick with him for at least another season. I think there was a lot of. I think when I was looking at the Jets, I think the 2 kind of positions that stood out to me at number 10 for them was offensive tackle, and then maybe if Bowers, the tight end, was there, he's really, really highly rated. Every ranking of the players that I've seen, he's number 5 in all of them. I think I've read across 3, gathering all this data and information, and he's literally number 5 and 6, best player in the draft. So I think. But, I'm kind of wary of tight ends because they seem to be better the later they get picked. George Kittle, Travis Kelce, for example. The last tight end who was picked really, really highly was Kyle Pitts. And, he hasn't turned out to be the superstar they thought they were going to be. But, I think picking a tight end outside the top 5 isn't that much of a reach. And if a lot of people are thinking he's a top 5 player out of all the draft prospects, then if he's at number 10 and the Jets want another weapon for Rodgers, then I think they'd be very, very happy to take him. The other position they're probably going to take is offensive tackle. I think they want to protect Rodgers as much as they can. They got some decent guys on the offensive line, but I think they'll want to bring in another tackle. And I think other than wide receivers, this draft for the offensive tackles is just really, really deep. There's a lot of guys there that are very, very impressive and who could last until maybe the late even teens. You have guys from Alabama, J.C. Latham or Laham, or however you pronounce that. He's probably the top 4, the top 5 offensive lineman, and he can last maybe late teens, maybe 20. So it's really, really deep for offensive line. So I think the Jets are definitely going to take an offensive lineman or Brock Bowers. And then we're talking about the Raiders. The Raiders have brought in Gardner Minshew. I rate Minshew. I think he's a good quarterback. I think he was great, obviously, when he was with the Jaguars, but the Jaguars wanted to tank so they could get Trevor Lawrence. And then I think he hasn't had a really fair chance. I think obviously when he's given his chances, he's kind of been a bit hit and miss. But I think it was a great signing for them if they don't plan on getting anybody else. I wouldn't be surprised. I don't think if they were going to take a quarterback, I don't think they'd take one at 13 unless JJ McCarthy was still there. I think it's too much of a reach. They'd probably have to drop down a little bit. Again, you don't want to drop down too far in case someone comes in and takes the guy you want. Who did I have them taking? Oh, I think they really need a lot of help in the secondary. And I think the best available player, even at 13, is nearly there. Well, not one of the he's one of the best. Yeah, the cornerback Terrion Arnold. I think he's the best ranked cornerback in the draft, and he should be there around 13. So I think they'll probably go with cornerback there.
Yeah, it was just an interesting thing I seen. Now it's tongue in cheek, but I do agree with you that Gardner Minshew, like he played very well for the Colts last year. He got them to the playoffs. Or was it the playoffs? I think they did get to the playoffs. Or on the verge of the playoffs. I think it was the last day or the last game in the regular season, but when he took over from Anthony Richardson. And I think he had settled at being a backup quarterback. He was backup to Justin Jalen Hurts, wasn't he?
Yeah,
the previous year. Yeah, the Eagles. And then he went to the Colts. And I think he had settled for being backup, but maybe he's got the taste of playing now and he'll have a chance at the Raiders. But what they were saying was if you have a billboard and you have you two playing in the Dome, or you have Gardner Minshew or Aidan O'Connell playing in their stadium, that it doesn't seem to be a big enough name for them to promote the Raiders. Now, if Gardner Minshew goes and wins games for them, it won't make any difference. So, but that was some people's thinking that they might look at a quarterback with the depth of talent that there is there to bring in to have a new franchise quarterback there.
Yeah, the Raiders are definitely in need. I feel bad for them because, Vegas is a great city. I've been to it a few times. I think they definitely deserve someone who's star quality. Obviously, they have Crosby on the defensive end, and he's their star. He's going to be the one on the billboard selling their tickets. It's a shame they lost Josh Jacobs because I really did rate him very highly as a running back. But the running back market is very, you know how it is. You can get a great running back kind of anywhere and they're cheap. I don't think they're valued well enough. You see Christian McCaffrey and Saquon Barkley and Josh Jacobs and all these guys. I think they should be valued a lot higher. So yeah, the Raiders, they have Devontae Adams as well, wide receiver. So they do have a few stars, but yeah, they definitely need that quarterback. I don't think they should take a chance on, a rookie at 13, because realistically the people who are going to be there are going to be like Bo Nix and the other guy from Washington. I can't think of his name at the moment.
Penix.
Thank you. Yeah. They're going to be the quarterbacks that are available. And I think that is definitely too high of a reach. At 13, I think they should take the best defensive player available because, realistically, the defense or offensive linemen are going to be the best players available at the 13th spot. So I think they should just take the best one available. They need help at cornerback. The best cornerback in the draft is available. So I think they should go there. I think in terms of, I don't think they're going to get anyone at this stage at quarterback unless they do a big trade on the night or something like that. But they need like a veteran. They need someone that's actually good and decent. Like they should have made a good run at Kirk Cousins or something like that. But you'd understand Cousins not wanting to go to Vegas. He has 2 or 3 young kids. But they need to make a good run either at a veteran or just throw a load of picks at a quarterback who may be disgruntled at their team. I don't think they should go with a rookie pick at 13. I think there's better value for them to spend there.
No, very good. Um, so for your top 10 picks in your draft that you think, is there going to be any changes or will any team trade up in your head? It, or like you're on about the Vikings, do you think they'll trade up with the Patriots, or will anyone else go try to get up into the top 10?
I don't think any of the top three are moving because Mac Jones is gone from the Patriots. They've given up on him. I thought that was a bit harsh. I know he's not. He did have a really good rookie season, and then he just kind of fell off. But was that really his fault? The Patriots weren't an amazing team. He didn't have a lot of talent around them. I think it's unfair that he's gone to back up Trevor Lawrence. Maybe the Raiders should have taken him. If he was there. Like better than him being a backup. I think who's at the Vikings now? The quarterback, Sam Darnold, I know is there. He's just a journeyman at this stage.
Yeah.
You see, I really did think JJ McCarthy would have fell to about 11, but then he did his pro day and everyone was like, no, he could definitely go a lot higher. So I now think, the Vikings, traded with the Texans to get an extra first round pick. I definitely think that seems to be like they're building ammunition or building, stock to be able to give to somebody and be like, look, you can have the 11th pick and you can have the 20th pick, and there's going to be the 23rd pick or whatever it is, and there's going to be great players there as well. So you can get two really good players for your teams. And if you just, trade out of the top 5 places, everyone seems to think they're going to trade up. Like I said, I don't think the Cardinals should budge. The Chargers are definitely going to budge. But the team they really need to leapfrog is the New York Giants, because I can't trust them not to take a quarterback. If JJ McCarthy is there, I think I would have said the Denver Broncos could trade up as well, but they're definitely not going to because they're going to give Zach Wilson a chance. But originally I would have thought the Broncos would have traded up more than the Vikings. But yeah, it's gonna, if anyone's gonna trade into that top 4, it's gonna be the Vikings, and I'd be shocked if anyone else did it. But it'll be exciting because literally draft night is crazy, and you can never. There's always going to be mad trades, and you're just going to be like, "What the hell just happened there?" Because you never expected this specific team to trade up so far. But yeah, I think if me personally, I'd say the Vikings will try and move up to leapfrog the Giants to take JJ McCarthy. Is what I'm going to guess is going to happen.
Yeah. It could be something like that, because even on the PFT mock draft, it's not the Vikings that I'm going to, but the Patriots at 11. I just can't see JJ McCarthy getting to 11. I think he'll be gone before that.
No, I think everyone's kind of hyped them up a little bit, and if you have Harbaugh coming out and saying, I would take JJ McCarthy over all the other guys, and he's a really well-respected coach. Like, I know he's obviously going to be a bit, what's the word, biased saying that, because obviously he coached JJ, but like I said, JJ got Michigan that championship. Harbaugh's been chasing that for years. So he's obviously being loyal to his player, but he's also a well-respected man. Like he's with the Chargers now. So I think his opinion is very highly rated as well, and I think that will influence a few teams. But yeah, before his pro day, I would have said JJ McCarthy would be an 11th pick, but now quarterback is a need for a lot of teams, so I think definitely someone's going to trade up for him.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it'll be interesting. For your Philadelphia Eagles, as of where we stand now with what they have changed and brought in and let go, how would you rate their season looking ahead with what they have now? And then with the draft coming up, if they get what they need, do you think they can push again for the Super Bowl, or is Nick Sirianni a problem that a lot of people think between him and the dressing room that happened last year, can it be fixed?
Yeah, it's a weird one because when they made the Super Bowl that year, Nick Sirianni was up for Coach of the Year, and then kind of towards the end of last season, they just all this stuff kind of came out saying he lost the locker room and stuff like that. Obviously they lost Kelsey at center. He retired, which is a really, really big blow. Like veterans, and someone of of his leadership is really needed in a young team like that, in the sense of like the quarterback and the wide receivers and stuff like that are young guys, and the running back, I think they've done incredible with the running back situation. I don't think they ever should have gotten rid of Miles Sanders. I was a big fan of Miles Sanders. Swift came in. He obviously didn't do enough to stick around, and they brought in Saquon. Saquon's a star, so they got Jalen Hurts, star quarterback, um, running back star Saquon Barkley, and wide receiver star AJ Brown. So they have, you know, three guys that are probably top five in each of their positions. So, it sounds like they should do well this season, but I'm wary because I just don't understand how they didn't go further in the NFL than they did last year. I definitely think it's a defensive problem, but I think they really, really need to improve on that area. They really should have tried to keep Reddick. I don't know what they were doing there, but they definitely need to focus. I think their first round pick on the defense. But I'm not as confident in them this year just because I don't know. I think a team like the Detroit Lions, I think there's just something about the Lions in the sense of not just the players they have, but also kind of like the belief they have. They all clearly, believe in Jared Goff. When he came from a bad situation with the Rams, nobody kind of wanted him. He was traded to the Lions. He's proved himself. I think he's honestly one of the best quarterbacks in the league going by stats. If you look at his stats, he's actually really, really good. And they've a lot of good playmakers as well. I just think they have a more hunger for it. I don't know what it is about the Eagles. Maybe that's changed because obviously they didn't do so well this year. But I definitely think if there's like kind of like an implosion at the end of this season or during the middle of the season, I definitely think Nick Sirianni could be out because I don't think there was a reason why all that stuff was in the press about him losing the locker room and stuff. He definitely does rub people the wrong way as well, and the way he reacts and kind of goads people. So I think if they scrape into the playoffs and then maybe get knocked out in the wild card round, I wouldn't be surprised if he was sacked.
Yeah, like it's interesting. Like they were 10-1 at one stage last season, and it's just like I don't know something. The wheels were taken off the cart. Something must have happened majorly in the dressing room. They changed their defensive coach, then didn't they? I think in or around that time, or maybe a couple of games after they lost a couple of games, and then they changed. But they've changed both offensive and defensive coaches again this year. Do you think will that make a difference?
Well, hopefully it will improve them. I think you look at the Super Bowl year, and they obviously had the two guys who went on to become head coaches in their own right, with the Colts and with the Cardinals. That was their defensive coordinator, their offensive coordinator, and then they obviously didn't do as well the next year. So I think a lot of credit has to go to those two guys. They were obviously a big, big factor in why the Eagles were so, so good that year. They made it to the Super Bowl against the Chiefs. So I do think, a fresh start, to new coaches, if they're new coaches, would be good for the team. Will be, hopefully an improvement. But judging just by the way, like you said, they were 10-1 and they just completely fell off. It doesn't give me a lot of hope going into this season that they're going to be like 10 0 again, I think they'll probably lose a few more games. But like I said, that's not like they'll lose a few more games at the beginning. But like I always say, that's not always a bad thing. It's probably better to be playing well and lose the odd game maybe when you're 5 or 6 games in, instead of going 10 games and then completely imploding and losing your last 5 or 6 games of the season. But I definitely think new addition to coaching will hopefully make an improvement. But it's really on the players. Like the players can't be cocky. There has to be a hunger for them. I think maybe that was an issue with the Eagles. Maybe they were too cocky. You know, they went 10-0, so they're kind of probably like, no one can beat us, and they just kind of took their foot off the gas a little bit. Whereas again, if you look at a team like the Lions, you can see the hunger in them. You can see they're doing it for their fans and their city. You know, they kind of never ever let up, and neither does their coach. So I think that's probably what mainly is the difference, because if you were to look at the teams on paper, you'd probably say that the Eagles have a better offense. But you know, that doesn't really matter in the end of the day, because the Lions made the NFC championship game last season and the Eagles crashed and burned early in the playoffs. So, you know, it has to be a hunger from the team, the players as well. It can't be cockiness and thinking, you know, they're the greatest when they haven't done anything yet.
Yeah. Sadly, I think that's not just for the Eagles, but on a lot of teams. Like we had a player that thought he was him for a long time, and for the first 5 weeks of last year, he was him. But from week 6 onwards, the number 3 wide receiver received more balls with less targets, had more yards than him. And these players, as you said, they might need a kick in the backside. Maybe that was the kick in the backside that the Eagles got at the end of last year. And some of them moved on, and some of them, like getting Saquon Barkley, that's a huge step forward. You know, like as I said, you have a top 5 quarterback, top 5 running back, top 5 wide receiver. You're a long way to get into the big dance when you have them 3 things in situ already.
And I do think Saquon, you know, even I think Saquon's a great role model. You know, I look at his social media, and he's, you know, he seems like a really, really humble guy. He seems really lovely, and I think he's going to bring, you know, coming from the Giants, who have kind of been a bit hit and miss when he's been there. I think he's really going to bring a hunger back to the Eagles. He's going to bring a humility back to the Eagles, and just the kind of initiative kind of to play hard and just keep going and taking it one game at a time and not getting ahead of yourself. I really think he can help keep the team grounded.
Yeah, and I hope for yourself and for the Eagles that he does, because it's nice to see humble guys and good guys win and do things. Or players, ladies or gents, it doesn't matter which, but if they're humble and they work hard and do what they're supposed to, it's nice to see them getting on well. So,
Yeah, exactly.
so anyway, Michaela, look at I would like to thank you very much for coming on the show. I very much appreciate it. It was a great chat about the draft and everything else. Um, it's it won't be long now until Thursday night, and are you going to stay up to watch it, or are you going to wait till the next day?
No, I hopefully plan to stay up to watch it. I've taken the next day off work, so probably have to go to sleep at 9 and wake back up at 1 or 2 a.m. whenever it starts here, and then watch. I'll probably get maybe to realistically 15 picks, and then I'll fall back asleep.
Oh, sure, I know. I'll try myself to stay up and watch it, but like that now, you might see the first half hour or hour of it, and then when we're a long way down. We're the 4th last pick if we stay, or 5th last pick if we stay where we are, and that's near the end of the night if we get to that. So we'll see how it goes. But look, thanks very much for coming on. I very much appreciate it, and thanks for the chat. And we'll hopefully have you back again on, say, probably in the first 3 or 4 weeks of the season, to see how your team is getting on and see how the other teams are getting on, if that's okay.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'd love to come back on and talk ball with you.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thanks very much. So, folks, thanks very much for watching, and thanks very much, Michaela. And until Thursday night or Friday, as I said before, which depends on if there's any news Thursday night, we'll have another video. If not, I'll wait till after the draft on Friday. You've been watching the Irish Blues Mafia with Michaela Fagan and myself. And thanks very much for watching. And until Thursday, Friday, go Bills.